forth his team, and I think that's great when you're in a smaller town. We're 470,000 people. We're going to grow, continue to grow in our city and region. You need an executive that can be held accountable by the voters and make decisions and feel a sense of urgency and articulate a vision for the city of Sacramento. And if you look in California, if you take out Sacramento, 5 of the top 7 cities in terms of population have this form of government. So does Denver, so does Seattle, the other cities that we model ourselves after as best practice cities, St. Paul, Salt Lake City. These are all cities that we studied when we put this charter revision forward.
Councilmember Sheedy says that this is the start of the power grab, that eventually you'd like to combine the city and county together and perhaps be mayor of both. Would you want to respond?
Okay, yeah, that was an awful lot for me to take in. Say that again.
Okay, Councilmember Sheedy has said that this is the start of a power grab, and eventually you would like to combine the city of Sacramento and the county, and then be the mayor of both, i.e. like San Francisco.
So let me say here, what this is about tonight is the opportunity for voters to have something on the ballot so the whole city can vote on. That's what that's about tonight. And the way I would characterize it is about accountability. What most elected officials don't want is accountability. I'm actually saying let's have the buck stop somewhere. If I do a great job in 4 years and people feel good about it, then it'd be great for me to get reelected. If I don't do a great job, you don't need a term limit. Vote me out and vote somebody else in. It's about accountability. The way we're set up now, and one of the questions earlier under Heather Fargo, it was hard to hold somebody accountable. Your elected official, is it the mayor's responsibility? Is it the city manager? Is it council? That's too confusing. We need a real clear line of accountability, I believe, and that's what it's about for me. And in terms of city and county and all those, if those are discussions that need to be happening down the road, great, we should have them, but that's certainly not where my mind is. My mind is right now is we have a fire and a police in terms of public safety that are doing our best that we can with the resources we have. And if you look at the county, you have a sheriff who just said he's going to step down potentially, or is going to step down, not run for re-election. And the city got $9.5 million in COP funds, which is great because we were able to put 35 more police officers on the street, but the county didn't get any of those dollars. So what I'm concerned with is how can those two departments work together to make sure that we're providing safe and secure communities in Sacramento. We've got to do more with less.
If this does reach the ballot in June 2010, don't you have to argue to the voters that there's something fundamentally wrong now that needs to be fixed? And from what we're observing and seeing, things are working well. You and Kittredge are on the same page. You're making rapid change. The city is responsive, and you're doing exactly the kind of leadership that you're proposing. You're doing it now. So what is fundamentally wrong and not working now that this charter change absolutely must address to allow the city to go forward?
So, assuming this gets on the ballot in June 2010 and is voted on tonight to allow that to happen, then I feel like I can dive a little bit deeper into that, but I'm going to address a couple of them real quick. I don't think the city is performing perfectly. It's actually why I ran for mayor. I've been in office 8 months. It's going to take a lot longer than 8 months to turn the city around. So we've got good, caring people in our community. We have a lot to be proud of. But if you go 2 or 3 blocks from here on K Street, there's a host of vacant buildings. If you go 1 block over in L Street, there's a hole in the ground. That's not good for our downtown. That's not good for economic development. And I don't think anybody thinks that we should be proud of J, K, and L corridor. So I ran because I felt the city could benefit from a different leadership at a different time. And I got elected, and I'm very thankful. To this day, the biggest honor of my life is to be the mayor of the city I grew up in. But when you look at over the last 8 years, our crime rate, violent crime rate over the last 8 years is we're the second most dangerous city in California, behind only Oakland. That's not statistics that make me feel good. When you think about our school systems, you've heard me say that we will never, ever be a great city without great schools. But when the majority of our schools are not meeting the academic growth targets for California, I don't feel good about that. When the majority of our kids in neighborhoods aren't getting a high quality education, when we have a growing homeless population that for far too long we've ignored, those encampments along the river, they didn't just show up 6 months ago or 8 months ago. They've been there for a decade, and we've swept those things under the rug. And we said we don't want to deal with it, and it's a little dirty secret we shouldn't talk about. Those days are done. We want to be a great city in Sacramento. We want to be a problem solver, and we want to take our challenges head on. And I certainly think there's so much more we can do. You know, I brought this forward to the public on many occasions. I advocated on behalf of an audit that we look at our books from top to bottom and bring somebody on the outside and external and determine, are there ways that we can save dollars? Are there cost savings and efficiencies? Until we do those, I can't tell you that we don't have more waste, fraud, and abuse that hasn't been discovered. I can't say that confidently until somebody on the outside comes in and looks at those books. I think there's so much more that we can do as a city, and I think this would be a positive step in that direction.
When you say we have failed in these areas, like K Street, like the homeless population, you can't run Sac City schools, although you could try, but who's failed? Who's we? Is that of the appointed bureaucrats by the city manager, or is that the failure of the city council? So who's really the we that has failed?
That's exactly why we need to change this form of government, because of that question right there.
But what is your analysis?
You're going to point the finger, all three. The mayor is responsible, the city manager is responsible, the elected official, and they're all going to do that. That's exactly why I think the form of government should change. Because I'd like to be here 2 years from now and say, these things didn't work, that's my responsibility. I'm sorry, and here's what I'm going to do to try to improve those. Right now, I can't say that. It's a lot more complicated than that, and I think that's part of the challenge. So who loses is the citizens of Sacramento, the children, those who are homeless, the residents of our community, and I think that's why we have a responsibility. Tom, when I'm out there in the community, people want this change. They want to vote on it, and they want a different Sacramento. They want somebody can call my office right now and say, I don't know, does anybody have an example? We get phone calls from
Parking ticket.
Somebody can call my office and say, I got a parking ticket. Then somebody in my office has to call somebody in the city manager's office, who then has to call some department head, and then they'll call the manager, and then they'll call. And at some point, we forgot who we even called and why. That's not efficiency. I mean, I would love to be able to say, okay, great, we'll have somebody get on it right now. I have a staff of 4 people, and you just can't do those things. Everything has to be run through the city manager, and it's bureaucratic, and there's a process, and I think the city doesn't benefit when that happens. I'm obviously very passionate about this because I live here, and I want to live in a great city. I want great schools, I want safe streets, I want economic development, I want job opportunities, I want an effective form of government, and right now, I don't feel like we are as good as we can be. And I think there's a lot of things we're doing well, we can continue to improve on those, and I think this would be a natural step in that direction.